Hi everyone, this is Miss Dillon. I'm going to talk you through the Cambridge Technical Extended Certificate in Sport and Physical Activity. This presentation is just for those that are doing the single award within the sports science when you get to sixth form in September. By the end of this presentation, hopefully you have a better understanding of the different units that you're going to be taking for this course, the requirements of the exams, and the variety of different activities that we're going to do for coursework units. If at the end of the presentation you have any questions, I put my email address on the final slide, so please let me know and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, we'll start with just a brief overview of what the structure of the course is going to look like. So you'll have 9 lessons a fortnight and 5 units to complete over the 2 years. That includes 2 exams. So 1 exam in the January of year 1, so January of year 12, and 1 exam in the January of year 13. You'll also have, so within this, the group that are doing the double, they'll join you for these set of lessons. So the class size we're looking at is around 20, which will be really, really positive for group work and coaching and practical lessons, because there's a lot more of you to work with than just the group that are doing the single course. For those of you that haven't done a technical course before, just quickly explain to you how the grading work. For every internal assessment or exam you do, you get either a pass, a merit or a distinction. And then for the 5 units, your final grade for each unit is added up to make your overall score. So in this table on the right, it has what your overall scores might be. So you could get a distinction star overall, and that would mean getting a distinction in 4 out of the 5 of the units overall. That equals 56 UCAS tariff points, and that's the A-level equivalent to an A star. So obviously a fantastic grade to come out of at the end. You could get a distinction overall if you got a distinction in 3 of your units and a merit in a couple of them, and that will be the equivalent to an A overall. To get a distinction for an assignment, you have to fulfill all the pass, merit and distinction criteria. So if, as an example, you missed out one little bit of pass criteria, you couldn't then get a distinction overall. You'd have to make sure you completed everything to be able to get that grade. That's where me and Mr. Turnbull are going to help you, make sure that when you hand work in, as long as you respond to the feedback, you should be in a really good position to be able to get the distinctions. If your final grade for a unit isn't ungraded, so you haven't hit all the criteria, you'll be unable to get a result for any of the course. So it's really important that as we go on through these 2 years, that you stay focused and you stay committed to the course, just to make sure that you never miss out on something that's going to have kind of a massive effect overall. But in general, with students that have done this previously, everyone's got some of the top grades, so the equivalents to A's and A stars at A level, and have gone on to do some really good courses at university. The units that you're going to cover are these ones: body systems and the effects of physical activity, with the exam in January; practical skills and sport and physical activity, which is an internal assessment; sport and exercise psychology, which again is internal; sport organisation and development, which is another exam; and sports coaching activity leadership. We've said here that 3 of them are going to be done in year 12 and 2 of them are going to be done in year 13. We can definitely start with body systems and the effects of physical activity when we get in September, because that's quite a theory element. There won't be many practical lessons within that. But when it gets to practical skills in January, we'll have to just make sure that obviously the risk of coronavirus is gone, so that we're able to do physical activity again, but we'll be in charge of that and we'll make sure that we balance your course out so you've got some practical and some theory as we go through and when it's safe to do so. Okay, so a little bit of information about the external exams. 2 units are assessed externally. These will be written exams, with the longest being 1 hour and 45 minutes long. They'll be graded using pass, merit and distinction. It is possible to resit the exams, but you could end up taking 2 exams very close to each other, so we advise that you don't need it. You have to get at least a pass in both exams to pass the course overall. Obviously, if you're in a situation where you hadn't achieved the pass, we would be giving you all the support you needed, ready for the resit, kind of in the following exam periods, whether that's in the July of year 12 or the July of year 13. So we'll give you all the help you need, but it is really important that you try your very best to do it the first time round, because it just gives you a lot of extra stress if you're going to have to resit. Examples of tasks for internal assessments. So 3 out of 5 of the units you're doing are marked internally. So that's marked by your teacher, but then moderated by the examiners for the exam board. The type of task you might have is like presentations. That might be a presentation to your teacher or a presentation to the whole class. Interviews, so again, it could be your teacher interviewing you, or it might be someone from your class interviewing you and then recording it. Practical sport. Written reports. And essay writing, so extended writing to explain or evaluate maybe an argument. Coaching lesson plans. Practical coaching assessments. Witness statements. This might be written by a teacher, or it could be that your coach for a sport outside of school will help you with that. And like posters or leaflets or other forms of evidence that you can do for some of the tasks. We're now going to go into a bit more of a detailed explanation of the 5 units that you're going to cover across the 2-year course. Just remember that internally assessed units involve coursework, whilst externally assessed units have an exam. So the first unit you're going to do in January of Year 12 is Body Systems and the Effects of Physical Activity. And this is externally assessed, and as I've said before, the exam is January of Year 12. Things you'll need to know. You need to understand the skeletal system in relation to physical activity and exercise, understand the muscular system in relation to physical activity and exercise, understand the cardiovascular system in relation to physical activity and exercise, and understand the respiratory system in relation to physical activity and exercise. Examples of the type of content you'd have here is you'll be asked to learn all the names of the major muscles in the body and understand how they work together to enable us to perform a range of sporting actions. For example, you'll need to know which muscles cause the knee joint to extend when striking the ball to take a free kick. This action is caused by the contraction of the quadriceps group of muscles. This group consists of the rectus femoris, vastus medialis, vastus intermedius, and vastus lateralis. Words like this and names like this, for now, for all of you, will be completely foreign, and you may be thinking, how am I expected to remember them? But with so many lessons leading up to the exam, we'll have loads of time for revision. We'll give you loads of different tricks and ways that you can remember these complicated words and what their actions are, that in general we found everyone does very well by the time we get to the exam. This is your science heavy unit, so for some of you that will really suit you. Some of you may think, oh, I'm not too keen on my biology or the science side of sport, but we can get everyone through this, so if we all work together and we all work really hard. Okay, we have practical skills in sport and physical activity, so an internally assessed unit. This is the one that in general most people are looking forward to. So you'll be assessed in your sporting ability, so how good you are in one team sport and one individual sport. You get to choose that team sport, you get to choose the individual sport, but there is a list of sports that Cambridge allow. That list is quite extensive, so in general we've never had an issue with people being able to do what they choose. To get assessed in the team sport and the individual sport, you'll create a video or like a DVD of your performance. That needs to include about 20 minutes of the performance as a whole. So for example, you playing a hockey match, you playing a netball match, where the footage is just uninterrupted, it's just following you around the court or around the pitch. You'll also have a series of skills in isolation. So in netball it might just be skills of you shooting if you play goal attack or goal shooter. In basketball it could be doing layups, but in isolation without any pressure, just to show the very best you can do that skill. And then you'll also do some small-sided activities, so small-sided games where a little bit of pressure is put on. So it could be doing layups in a one-on-one situation, or it could be being able to pass the ball in a 3v2 in football. Although we'll give you time in lessons to get some of this filming done, there will be some responsibility on you guys here to get that done out of lessons as well. So when you go to your training session, speak to your coaches and see what support they can give you for that. As well as the team sport and the individual sport, we need to demonstrate safely in an outdoor adventurous activity. So we're lucky now that we've got the climbing wall, so we'll do about 6 weeks of practical lessons on the climbing wall, where you'll learn absolutely everything you need to know about being able to lead on that safely. So how to belay, how to teach someone else how to belay, what the safety equipment is and how we check it, but also how to climb safely and effectively. We also go to Lydiard Park for a day trip out, where you do orienteering competitions against each other, and we have a look at the safety of how to orienteer, but also how to run an event like that. In general, that's a really nice day out. And then finally, you need to demonstrate your officiating in one sport. We will provide opportunities to do that in school, so we do that within badminton with everyone together, so we'll teach you how to be an official for badminton as a sport that in general is quite neutral. People don't tend to have loads of experience in that, so it means we can teach you all together. But if you already do this out of school, so you might already do some umpiring or officiating within your sport, then it's good to get some footage of that so that we could put that through as your assessment as well, just to show that you're that higher level in that skill. Okay, sports psychology, which is another internally assessed unit. The type of things that we cover here: motivation and goal setting. So we have a look at what is it that drives the elite athletes to take part in their sport, and what is it that controls the participation in lower level athletes, so general participation or children. We have a look at the type of goals that we can set, so short term, medium term, long term goals, and how they can help us in reaching kind of our dreams and like the big events in sport. We study something called attribution theory and attribution retraining. Attribution theory is all about what reasons that you give for being able to either succeed in a sport or the reasons you give for failing in a sport. So if, for example, you're taking a penalty kick in football, so it's a really tense atmosphere, you're at the end of a game, you've obviously drawn the game to be able to go through to penalties, you know, perhaps it's going to win some cup if you score this particular penalty. You go up to take the penalty, and then you kick the ball high and wide, so nowhere near the goal, really rubbish penalty, technique looked awful as well. What is it that you say caused you to miss that penalty? Do you say it's because you didn't work hard enough in training, you haven't practiced penalties, or you're just not very good under pressure? Or do you blame something else? Do you blame the penalty spot was really churned up and it was slippy? Do you say someone in the audience shouted out something rude or distracted you? The referee didn't give you enough time to set up before they blew the whistle, so you felt rushed, so it's the referee's fault? So do you say the reason that I failed was my own fault, I didn't try hard enough, or something internally? Or do you say it's something externally? And this is really interesting because it depends on you as an individual. So when we get to this, we'll go around the class and find that so many different people would do different things in different scenarios, and you'll start to wonder, what is it about your personality that leads you to thinking like that? But we'll also have a look at elite athletes and how they're likely to attribute success or failure and what that does to their career. So really interesting. I think you can have lots of practical examples in that section. We'll also look at stress, anxiety and arousal. I think probably all terms that you've heard before, whether that's within sport or just within school situations, but we have a look at the positives and the negatives of sport in stress, anxiety and arousal. Something called group development, which is Steiner's model. You could maybe look that up before you get here in September if you wanted to get a little bit of a head start. But we look at how a group forms and then how groups become really productive, or a group forms and then there's lots of arguments and it falls apart. So we have a look at the different theories that depend on whether a group's going to be really successful or a group's perhaps not going to be so successful. And then finally, we look at the impact of sport on mental health. Something that I hope you're quite interested in, because I'm sure a lot of you will want to go and do some sort of coaching when you're older, maybe teaching, maybe go to physiotherapy or work at leisure centres, but something around the sport industry. And it's really important that you have a good understanding of the positives, but at times as well the negative sports can have on people's mental health, and how we can, as people interested in sport, do the very best we can on making sure that everybody takes part in sport and has a positive relationship with it in the future. Okay, sport organisation and development. So again, another externally assessed unit that will be taken as an exam in January of year 13. Within this, you need to understand how sport is organised in the UK, understand sports development, understand how the impact of sports development can be measured, and be able to explain examples of sports development. So keywords like national governing bodies, world games such as the Olympics, Paralympics, Commonwealth Games, sports performance pyramid, so how you go from foundation to elite, so you get from grassroots and like children that have only just started a sport, but then what the process is for them to get to the elite level. They're the key things here. An example of the type of thing and kind of putting it into a situation that you'll come across in the next couple of years is we'll look at different sports organisations in this country and globally. We'll explore how they interact to ensure the success of sports initiatives at both the grassroots and elite levels. And these are a couple of questions that we'll be able to answer. So Don Parsons won GB's first medal of the Olympics. When interviewed after the event, why did he thank everyone who had ever bought a lottery ticket? Or Lizzie Arnold is GB's most decorated Winter Olympian. She was once a heptathlete. How did she end up competing in skeleton? So she's gone there from Summer Olympics to the Winter Olympics. So how did she make that transition? Or finally, Eddie the Eagle Edwards is probably Britain's most famous Winter Olympian. But why does he feel that we shouldn't be funding winter sports? So he's obviously been quite successful, he's the most well-known person, but why does he think we shouldn't be funding other people to go to the Winter Olympics in the future? So all quite interesting topics that we'll be covering in the next couple of years. And then finally, sports coaching and activity leadership. So this is an internally assessed unit, so coursework and a lot of practical assessments in this one. So you need to understand the roles and responsibilities of a sports coach or activity leader. You need to plan and prepare sports coaching sessions, so long-term plan and then short-term plans for every individual session. You'll deliver these sports coaching sessions and they'll be filmed and evaluated. So that's teaching 6 progressive sessions to Year 7 or Year 8 students in their PE lessons. And then you evaluate and analyse your own performance. So you'll watch some videos and look at some pictures or get some feedback from the younger students and you'll think, what have I done well this week and what can I do better next week? So in general, everyone really enjoys this. The Year 7 and 8s absolutely love having you teach them. They really look up to you and you inspire them to kind of get involved in the future. You have quite small classes, so we give you around 10 students per class because then we have a few of you teaching alongside each other. And we give you quite a lot of choice of the sport you want to teach, but obviously has to be within the parameters of a school environment. So it tends to be like badminton, tennis, football, basketball, netball, hockey or rugby. They're the sports we've had. If there's something that you really want to do, that we could do, so for example, somebody wants to do American football, so he's going to do American football for my class at the moment, but we haven't got to the point of actually teaching it yet, so I haven't seen how it's going to work, but he's really confident that he can teach that safely within the group. So you do get your own choice, and you get a little bit of your own opinion on it, but we just need to make sure that it can work in the school environment. Okay, so that's the information you need for each of the units you're going to be taking over the next 2 years. Really, this slide is just to tell you why me and Mr. Turnbull absolutely love teaching this course and we think you've made a really good decision by taking it. So there's lots of coursework. Within this coursework, we'll tell you to aim for distinction in every single piece to take the pressure off exams. There's lots of practical application, so running sessions, competitions and testing for lower years. That gives them loads of benefits because they love working with you, but also gives you lots of experience that you can take on to future careers. Put in your personal statements and your CVs to say that you've volunteered and you've ran sessions for younger students with all the skills that comes with. And it can be directly applied to part-time and full-time jobs you may want. This is just to give you a little bit further information if you want to have a look. So the exam board one is OCR. The course title for you guys is Cambridge Technical Extended Certificate in Sport and Physical Activity. There's a link there to your course website. A picture of the course textbook, that isn't compulsory. We have all the materials to give you as we go through the course. You don't actually need that, but if you wanted to get it, perhaps because obviously you've got such a long break before you come back in September, if you were keen to have a look, you could always buy it, but just remember, we're not telling you you have to have it. If you have any questions, you can email me on my email address there. But that's it really. I hope you've kind of enjoyed the presentation, found it a little bit informative, and you're looking forward to coming in September and starting it. I think we're looking forward to working with you as a group and hopefully get the very best grades we can at the end of year 13. So enjoy the rest of your summer break and let me know if you want any more work to do, or if you want any help with the summer work you've already been given. But as I said, have a look on that course website for any further information or let me know if you've got any questions. Thank you.